As you know, while some Muslims believe in hadiths and narrations, some say, I look at the narrator's chain and eliminate some others, while others do not accept any text other than the Quran. As a non-believer, of course, I do not believe in hadiths and narrations, but since there are those who do, sometimes I have to refer to them and show what's written. In addition, hadiths and narrations can be examined to understand and determine the various taboos in that geography and the stories and legends circulating among the people at the time they were written. Because taboos, tales, and legends do not disappear in a short time, they have a long life. Let me come to our main topic. In this study, I will share with you what is written in Islamic sources about the poisoning of Muhammad. In the last part, I will ask my Muslim friends a few questions on the subject. Medina was the home of the Jews, and Muhammad was a Meccan, that is, a foreigner to them. After Muhammad went to Medina, and became stronger there, he started actions against the Jews under various excuses, dispersing some, expelling them, and murdering others. Examples include Banu Nadir, Banu Qaynuqa, Banu Qurayza, and Khaybar Jews. In an interesting way, with the purpose of defending these actions, Muslims say, because the Jews supported the polytheists of Mecca and were against Muhammad, they were fought against. I say it's interesting because it's a defensive effort that lacks empathy. Let me give an example in order to be understandable. Imagine that one of the refugees and asylum seekers comes to the country you live in, and his followers forcefully impose something on you, the original natives of the country, the citizens of the country, and cause you unrest. And they slaughtered your relatives, beheaded them, took your wife and daughters as concubines, sold them in the slave markets, and stole your goods. Can you accept these as normal? The actions of Muhammad are no different. Does Muhammad, who migrated to Medina, the foreign land, because the Meccans did not leave him alone, have the right to disturb their peace and murder them because they do not listen to what they say? However, only a person who lacks empathy and justice can say yes, he had the right. There can be no justification for this. Because no matter what is written in the verses, religion essentially focuses on believing and choosing to believe, and everyone has their own truths, their own gods, and scriptures that make their own propaganda. Moreover, none of them, including Muhammad, can prove that his deity really exists. If he could, people would immediately believe him, they would not watch the heads of their spouses and children leave their bodies, and they would not walk around under the risk of beheading. You must laugh as an answer to those who say, they knew that Islam was the only religion, but their stubbornness prevented them from believing. Let me return to the main topic. When Muhammad, who wanted to hold the Mecca-Medina and Damascus trade routes, attacked and captured the castle of Khaybar, the surviving Jews made an offer to him. According to this proposal, the Jews would continue to work and grow crops on the lands in Khaybar, but they would give half of the produce to the Muslims. For the Khaybarites who were already captured and wanted to live, there was probably no other option. The other option was that their heads would probably visit the sword and fall to the ground. The Muslims who won the war took many captive women as concubines. In fact, according to narratives, one of the Muslims, Dihya, came to the presence of Muhammad and said, "Give me a concubine from the captives," and after that, he went to captive women and chose Safiya bint Hayy as his concubine. Later, when someone who came to Muhammad said, "Safiya is only worthy of you," he summoned Dihya and Safiya to his presence and said to Dihya, "Find yourself another concubine from among the captives," and took Safiya for himself. Safiya's many relatives were killed in this and previous wars. Safiya is the name given to the booty share of the rulers or tribal chiefs. The natives of the village of Fadak heard about Muhammad's actions in Khaybar, and the agreement he made with the locals. They knew that they were the next target for Muhammad. Then, with the thought, let's be workers to survive, just like the Jewish captives of Khaybar, they made the same offer to Muhammad. In other words, the village of Fadak was taken without a fight. Therefore, it belonged only to Allah and Muhammad. I simply explained the development of events. Now let's come to the conquest of Khaybar and the poisonous meat that the Jewish woman fed Muhammad. In a narration in Bukhari it writes, narrated Anas bin Malik, a Jewess brought a poisoned cooked sheep for the Prophet who ate from it. She was brought to the Prophet and he was asked, shall we kill her? He said, no. I continued to see the effect of the poison on the palate of the mouth of Allah's Messenger. That is, Anas bin Malik says that after eating the poisonous meat of Muhammad, corruption occurred in the mouth area. A narration in Sahih al-Bukhari and narrated by Abu Hurairah is as follows. When Khaybar was conquered, a roasted poisoned sheep was presented to the Prophet as a gift by the Jews. The Prophet ordered, let all the Jews who have been here, be assembled before me. The Jews were collected and the Prophet said to them, I am going to ask you a question. Will you tell the truth? They said, yes. The Prophet asked, who is your father? They replied, so and so. He said, you have told a lie, your father is so and so. They said, you are right. He said, will you now tell me the truth, if I ask you about something? They replied, yes, O Abu al-Qasim, and if we should tell a lie, you can realize our lie as you have done regarding our father. On that he asked, who are the people of the hellfire? They said, we shall remain in the hellfire for a short period, and after that you will replace us. The Prophet said, you may be cursed and humiliated in it. By Allah, we shall never replace you in it. Then he asked, will you now tell me the truth if I ask you a question? They said, yes, O Abu al-Qasim. He asked, have you poisoned this sheep? They said, yes. He asked, what made you do so? They said, we wanted to know if you were a liar, in which case we would get rid of you, and if you are a prophet then the poison would not harm you. Although it is written in some narrations that he forgave the woman, who had made him eat poisonous mutton, in the narration of Abu Salama from Jabir, it is written that Muhammad had the woman killed as retaliation. Al-Bayhaqi, on the other hand, wrote that Muhammad first released the woman but then had the woman killed as retaliation after the death of Bishr ibn al-Bara, who ate poisoned meat. It looks like his health was greatly affected by this event because there are narratives that he constantly had cupping treatment in the hope of recovery after the poisoning event. For example, in a narration in al-Bukhari, it is written that Muhammad summoned a young slave who was doing cupping, ordered that he be given dates in return, and talked to the owners of the slave to reduce his tax. In various sources, it is written that names such as Abu Hind and Abu Taiba took blood from Muhammad with cupping. According to the narratives, he had cupping done while fasting and even in the state of ihram for pilgrimage. In Ibn Majah's Sunan, there is a narration that Salama, one of Muhammad's wives, said, I see that you are still in pain because of that poisonous meat you ate. In other words, when we look at the narratives, it is impossible not to think that the poison is slowly melting them. Of course, he may not have died directly from the poison. However, narratives show that the poison had affected him, which cannot be underestimated. Muhammad died a few years later, about 3 years after the poisoning. There is a hadith attributed to his wife Aisha, and he says, O Aisha, I still feel the pain caused by the food I ate at Khaybar, and at this time, I feel as if my aorta is being cut from that poison. This is the information in Islamic sources. Now, in line with this information, I would like to ask Muslims a few questions. 1. If Muhammad's God, Allah, really exists and supports Muhammad, then why didn't he help him when he was in Mecca? Why wasn't Angel Gabriel, who always came to him to inform, warn, or deliver God's answer, even in discussions with Jews or Christians and even when he had problems with his wives, with him this time? 2. If someone came to your country and imposed a completely different religion on you and killed everyone around you because you opposed it, could you love him or enter his religion with sincere belief? Wouldn't you harbor grudges and enmity? 3. Why doesn't Allah, who commends spiders to build a web in the mouth of the cave and commends birds to make a nest in it, extract the poison of Muhammad from his body? You can say, he was going to die anyway, this is an occasion for his death. Is it suitable to die after suffering from poison for years, which is for the Prophet whom you glorify by saying the realms were created for the sake of him? 4. Can you see this as a miracle by saying, he was poisoned but survived without dying? For it to be considered a miracle, wouldn't he have to be aware of poisoned meat, and not eat it at all? Moreover, narratives show that he was in constant pain after the poisoning until his death. Would it be such a miracle? 5. Muslims say Muhammad never waged an offensive war. So what about the attack on Khaybar?